What's up, y'all? Happy Sunday to you. How you guys doing? Can you hear me okay? Sound good? Sound good? Good to see a bunch of you here already. Let's see here. We have 54 people online, and good morning. Let's see here. We've got the Hoppo here. He says, I know you don't like attenuation. Let's dive right in, shall we? I know you don't like attenuation too much, but do you still rate the 2 Notes torpedo reload as an attenuator and also a competitor to the aux? So the difference between the torpedo reload and the aux, I have a reload sitting right there. You can't see it, but it's right there. And I have an aux sitting right there. You can't see it. Well, you can kind of see it. It's over there. There's the aux. The difference between the two of those is that one is a basically like with in the case of the aux, yes, you plug it in and it's powered and all that stuff. But the attenuation is a passive attenuator. So if I'm not mistaken, the attenuator portion of the aux would still work even if you unplug the power from it. But anyway, it's an attenuator that's designed to suck juice off the amplifier and kind of dissipate it as heat and pass some through to the speaker still, right? Whereas with the torpedo reload, what you've got is a reactive load box that loads the amp all the way down to line level. And then there's a solid state power amp built in. Okay, and the power amp reamps the signal back up from line level to something that you can then plug in with a speaker into a speaker cabinet. So you've got the two different types. You've got the attenuator, and then you've got a load and reamp. So another load and reamp would be the power station from Fractal. That's another good example, and kind of maybe the only other one I can think of that's on the market right now that's got a built-in power amp and is designed to reamp. I personally prefer the load reamp. The torpedo reload, I'm a big fan of 2 Notes products. I like them. I've got a Torpedo Live. I've used them many times on tour. I've used the torpedo reload a little bit. Like I said, I've got one sitting right here. The load that's in them is pretty good. It's not my favorite one on the market, but it's good, you know, and they make great products. I like the owner a lot. He's a great guy. And I think they do really good work. The reload isn't my favorite load reamp. The Fractal is. And the reason is because of the tube power amp. The tube power amp still gives you, there's this feel thing. And it's got to do with the dampening and impedance curve and all this kind of stuff. But it still feels like it's a tube amp connected to a speaker. There's something about using a solid state reamp that doesn't feel the same. It's not just a tonal thing, it's a feel thing, and it's got to do with the dampening and the impedance curve. So my favorite, long story short, is the Fractal that's available as a sort of attenuation or load reamp device. The best sounding one and the one that feels the best is the Fractal. It is, I think, and I've tried every single one, and it works great. Most people that have tried it like it. You know, nice thing with the load reamp is that it's not just an attenuation device. It's also a device to make things louder. So let's say you've got a little champ and you love the tone of it, but you can't play it with your band. But you could run your champ into the Fractal or into the torpedo reload, and then you can use it to get more volume out of the amp than you would normally be able to. So it's kind of an overall device that allows you to you know, deal with stage volume and recording and all kinds of things. I hope that makes sense. All right. So what are we going to talk about next? I'm going to find out kind of where I was in the chat there. Oh, we got somebody from Algeria in the house here. That's D-harmonic. That's awesome. Amp microphone placement, says Reed. Let's talk about that. What you can do is use your phone, turn the light on your phone like that, and use it to look through the grill cloth on your cabinet. And if the speaker looks like that big, dust cap in the middle, I usually, if this is the dust cap, I'll put the mic off to the side of the dust cap, just off to where it meets the cone. And then if it's still too bright, check the sound, just move it out a little bit further. And I don't generally live put the mic right on the grill. I'm back about half an inch or an inch. That's what I like. And it's generally a 57, 9 times out of 10, it seems like. Rented says he got a Sir Classic Pro with MLs and a Thorn Plus. He finds position 2 is dark. Is that normally your experience? Is position 2 the one that you would define as the split humbucker and the middle pickup? Tell me that. Or is it the two ML single coils? Because we used to call it position 1 used to be all the way up the neck position, and position 2 was the next position with the two single coils. Position 3 as you move the switch down, et cetera, et cetera. The ML is a little bit darker single coil. It's not quite as open and chimey as say the V60s or V60 LPs, or certainly the V70s are a little lower output and have a little bit more of that quacky sort of, so anyway, tell me that. But yeah, it could be the ML is a little bit. It's just got a little bit. They're wound a little bit hotter, as I understand it. And the ML standards also versus ML classics. The ML classic will have a little bit more of the open thing. ML standard would be a little bit more of that. I don't know. Je ne sais quoi. The clucky 2 and 4 Strat positions, I would think, with the ML classics will be there. My old Strat has an ML classic in the neck, and people always rave about the tone of that guitar. It's more to it than just the pickup. The guitar sounds amazing, but the pickup sounds terrific in that guitar. So, what pedals do I recommend to get the best rock and roll tone? That's from Ignacio. The best rock and roll tone. Well, for me, for the best rock and roll tone, incidentally, I recommend like the best amp. Like for me, rock and roll tone equates some sort of Marshall based circuit generally. And I think rock and roll, I think of a 50 watt plexi. That's just where my mind goes instantly. But of course, you can get rock and roll out of a lot of different things, out of Fenders and Vox style amps and stuff like that. But for me, it all starts with the amp. The best tone starts with the amp, getting that, I just think AC/DC or whatever is ground zero for that kind of tone. Getting yourself an amp that does a good crunch tone is the main thing. Now, if you don't have that and you want a pedal that kind of simulates that, what do I like? I mean, oh man, there's so many different ways to go with this, but something in the vein of a kind of drawing a blank as far as like all the Marshall pedals, but I really liked the Bogner Lagrange. Sir Riot is a great rock and roll distortion pedal, I think. Let me think. There's some other good ones. I'm totally drawing a blank right now. Little Brute Drive, the second version. Little Brute Drive 2 sounds great for that tone. Those are some good crunch pedals. Investigate those for sure. But to me, it all starts with the best. You say the best, and for me, it's like really it comes from having an amp that distorts really nicely. That's why we put so much time into the voicing of PT100 on channel 2 and 3. Pedals into a Grandmeister Deluxe 40. I don't know that amp. I'm sorry, I haven't played that one. So let's see. Can I do a pedalboard build with my recommended pedals? You do so many videos with pedals, not sure which ones are the best. Well, if you want, you should look at my current, like about a year ago, I guess I probably put up a video of my pedalboard build. So it's down here on the floor right here. I wish it was easier to pick up a computer and show it to you, but I can't because it's all connected with tons of cables. But watch those videos. I think there's 3 of them that show my pedalboard, and that would be, and it is kind of a pedalboard build video. Actually, it goes all the way from tearing the old one up to through building the new one with Dave Friedman and everything. So to reference those videos, they're on my channel within the last year, and you'll see part 1, 2, and 3. Pete's new pedalboard or whatever I called it, and you'll see what I chose. What amp should I sell to afford the new PT? Everything. No, I don't know. Keep the ones you love, and if there's any that are collecting dust, sell those. I got to do that too. I have too much stuff. Hi from London, England, says Mark Pritchard. What's up? Hey Pete, how necessary is a pedal switcher for your gigs? I'm thinking about making the leap on my Friedman board. For me, it's totally necessary. Wow, we got 300 people online already. That's awesome. Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. A little espresso. Yeah, for me, the pedal switcher thing is I've grown so accustomed to just hitting one button and having everything change. I love it. It's so simple and so fast. You know, you got to put in the programming ahead of time. But on my gigs, I mean, I do a lot of things where I go from a clean sound with compression and some ambient stuff going on to just a straight up distorted tone or something. In order to do that and push all those buttons, I just don't. I've never been the one that wants to deal with that. I've been using switching rigs for years. I started out with a GCX in a rack with a pedal drawer, and the pedals were all racked and everything. And then I just had a GCX MIDI controller on the floor, and that was way back in the mid 90s. I got a rig built like that, and I loved it so much. You know, it worked great. I had a Marshall DSL 50, and I had a 6-space SKB rack with a pedal drawer, and the GCX, and I had one rack thing. I had a Rocktron Replifex, and it was in the loop of the Marshall. And with, 6 or 7 pedals on the drawer, 6 pedals maybe, and then the Replifex, and then the Marshall, I could change the channels using, I think, one of the loops in the GCX. I used it as a switcher, like a relay switch or whatever you call it when it, a lashing switcher or whatever. With that rig, I did a lot of stuff. Did my first couple tours and stuff like that, and it was great. And I got used to it then, and I kind of never looked back. I just have always. Well, I mean, I've got a couple pedal boards that don't have switchers on them, but I don't. I used one the other day to do this thing in the Viper Room. The other day, I played for all these music school kids that were here from Japan, with my buddy Corey McCormick and Matt Starr on drums and vocals. We did a little kind of classic rock gig, but I just took the SL68 and my little pedal board, and all I really needed was some, like a solo boost and a delay. So if that's it really depends on what you're doing, whether or not you need the pedal switcher. I think it depends. If you only use a few sounds, then you really don't need it. But if on my gigs, I need it. Let's see. Chris says Echoplex or carbon copy for high gain leads. A carbon copy for high gain is probably a little dark. I mean, it might work for you, but I find sometimes with real high gain leads, I want a little bit more clarity, and the tape delays tend to not have as much roll off on the top end as an analog like the carbon copy. So, sometimes an analog delay can work nice with high gain, but I sort of actually more use almost like digital delays with real high gain. If I want, and then I'll just roll off the top end to the exact level I want. An analog delay's got that built-in roll off that's really dark. So I find that when I think a high gain lead, with the tone super saturated and kind of, it can get a little muddy maybe with analog delay. So for that, I would prefer a tape delay or maybe digital. That's just me. But I love analog delay for other things. When you've got some space in the music and maybe it's slightly clean, think edge or whatever, and then with the modulation. The great thing about an analog delay and something like the carbon copy is you can get that modulation going, and it can have a lot of warble in it. But because it's dark, it kind of sits behind that primary dry guitar tone and sounds really cool. That sound on a high gain lead, it wouldn't be my first choice. The modulation thing, a little bit of tape warble or that kind of modulation can be cool on high gain leads, but the kind of the vibrato that a Memory Man does or something like that, that's not really, I don't think, what I want when I'm playing a solo. Just me, yeah. Greetings from the other London, Canada, that is. That's Brad Elliott. What's up there in London, Canada? London, Ontario. Why don't you use a Marshall Silver Jubilee? That's one amp I've never owned. I like them. I remember the first time I tried one, it was probably 1987 in a friend's basement. We got a 2550 and we borrowed it from the local music store that had them. Kind of wound it out. It sounded really good. But it's never been like the best sounding Marshall to me. I just gravitate a little bit more towards the plexi thing, I guess. Danson's reluctantly says, Pete, you rock. and I'm a reluctant dancer too, every time. It's not my bag. Not a good dancer. I'd like to take salsa lessons. Maybe I could get like, you know, wouldn't that be cool? Or if you were like Napoleon Dynamite and you just like study one of those tapes in your bedroom for a long time and you bust out some crazy shit all of a sudden. Sure, I'd be into that. Let's see. Janeth says, speaking of attenuators, I was thinking of buying a torpedo captor to use as a load box. What do you find are some ways which the captor does not feel like the real thing? Well, if you use the torpedo captor with a good reamp, like a good tube power amp that's relatively flat, you'd be in pretty good shape. But by then you're probably getting already into the territory price-wise easily of the Fryette, which is all in one box. So, you know, that's the thing. I just recommend if you're going to reamp that you do it with the tube amp. That's all. And a good thing to note is with tube amps, they've got like the presence and the depth thing. So like, let's say you're going to use a PT100 to reamp. We've got the presence control on the back and the depth control. I would set the depth at 0, or, you know, in the case of the PT100, it's a switch, so all the way off, and I would set the presence at 0 and start there. You're going to want to have that amp kind of as flat as possible, and that's the way to kind of do it. So if you were to use something like a captor and then go into the return of an amplifier, if it's got a presence knob, start all the way down, or you might find that the sound is excessively bright when you're reamping. But anyway, but this is a nice thing about that Fryette piece of gear, is that what it gives you is the presence and depth knobs on the front, and it also gives you the load. And you've got kind of what he's got on there is switches that basically control the amount of reactive load. So if you're using it to record, you're probably going to want those switches all the way up, because that's going to be the closest thing to loading with a real cabinet. But the switches in the half position tend to work really nicely if you're using it to go into a cabinet and using it as a load reamp. And the reason for that is because you're getting an impedance curve again with the tube power amp in the Fryette unit going into the cabinet. It's creating its own impedance curve. So you're getting a double kind of impedance curve effect if you've got the switches all the way up on the Fryette and you're also using it as a reamp. So that's why he put those switches in there, I think, was to be able to tame the reactive load down a little bit and get a little bit, especially in the top end. If you put the switch in the middle, it sounds really good then with the reamp. It's an imperfect thing. It's not, you're not getting exactly what you would have if you were just plugged right into a cabinet, wailing way loud. But you can, between the presence and the depth on his device and those switches to tune the load, you can get a really, really great tone, I find, and achieve the balance that you want. So long story short, your idea of using a captor and then going into another tube, yes, you can do all that. But now you've got different pieces of gear and you're putting them all together. And it's like he did make a really, really cool device that makes life simpler, all built into one box, you know, with a 50-watt tube reamp and a good solid reactive load. And what else about it? It's got an effects loop. So that's nice, because if you've got a plexi or something like that, you know, you can patch in some effects post and get something that you would never be able to get otherwise. So he really, you know, was able to put it all together and for a decent price, you know. It's cool. What camera do you use when you make your demos, says Matt. I can actually show you that. I have a couple. Just one sec. So I started years ago. Oh, this is kind of difficult to get up here because of this power cable I've got plugged in. Okay, there we go. I started years ago with this guy. This is a Sony a6000. This is not an expensive camera. I bought it in a kit with another lens. And it's a great camera just for taking photos and stuff, but it takes really, really nice video actually. And I bought it for, I don't know, like $700 with a lens, and it came with a camera bag. So I used that for a long time. It's not the most convenient camera for recording video because the screen doesn't turn around on it. So if I'm recording myself, I have to go behind the camera and look at it and all that. But it does work. It takes really beautiful video, actually better than the other camera I have, which is a dedicated video camera, which is this one. So this is a Sony, what's it called? An FDR AX33. God, my eyes are bad. AX33. Yeah, so this guy has the screen on it so that I can do this, turn it around, and I can see what I'm recording. And this is just a really, really convenient camera because of that. It works great. I basically like it. The video quality is not as good as that DSLR I just showed you. So I was just looking at the new Sony 6500, which is a slightly newer version of the DSLR that I have, and it is a really nice camera. What an amazing camera! But anyway, both these cameras are under $1,000. You know, they would be in the kind of the $650 to $1,000 range, somewhere in there, depending. And they both work great, so that's what I use. I am not overly concerned with, as you guys probably noticed, with video quality, and like I'm not like it's got to be 4K, and like, you know, there's certain people that get really into that in their YouTube videos. I don't think you guys care that much about that stuff. You probably want to find out about the gear, and you're there for the information more than like to watch a beautiful video that looks like it was produced in some video studio. I just don't have any interest in that, and I don't think I want to keep it more focused on the music and the playing and the gear and the nuts and bolts of what I'm trying. I'm not trying to make like Hollywood movies or something with my videos. So long story short, if you get into it and you do it, that's just my philosophy. You might feel differently about it. It's a fun hobby to get into the video thing, and you know, like having good cameras, making it look as good as possible. I get it. It's fun, and it is fun to make it look as nice. But I sort of I focus on that just a little bit, and then mainly it's mostly about the sonics and stuff, and recording the music well, and you know, the gear sounding good and explaining it well and all that stuff. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Daryl says he has a Fryette, and he says he agrees it's amazing. Yeah, it's a really useful piece of equipment. I agree. Justin is in the super chat, and he says, "What scares you as a guitar player, live or studio?" Well, both. You can get some fear going no matter what. You know, if there's a, I guess what always freaked me out, if I let it freak me out, if I let my head go there, was, you know, certain people, playing with them, it can be a scary thing. You know, playing with somebody like Henley, it can be intimidating because he's a perfectionist, and you know it, and you don't want to screw up. And so if you let your head run away with itself, maybe like a slightly difficult part is coming up or something like that, or something challenging, and if you tunnel into that, then you're in trouble. So it's a good thing to always just remember that at the core of it, you know, the boss, whoever you're working for or whatever in the studio, they're just a little nervous too. You know, they want to have a great, you know, recording or a great live show or great whatever. So they just want everybody to be on the same team. And so all you have to do is kind of like remember that number one thing with crowds and playing live is that everybody's there to have a good time. You know, there's no reason to really be freaked out or afraid, because everybody's got your back. You've already won. You know, nobody's there to have a shitty time or to criticize you. You know, they're there to enjoy. They paid money to get in. So it's always important to remember that they're already there. They're just like, yeah, we're here for you. You know, they're rooting for you. You know, so it's not like you got to remember that the crowd is not the enemy. They didn't come there to see you fall down or fall flat on your face or whatever. So that's important to remember. And my go-to thing, if I get a little nervous or I'm worried, is I just go to thinking about people that I see as being fearless, and as like, you know, it's always good to go, well, what would so-and-so do in this situation? You know, so there's a few people that I think about. I mention him all the time, but Jack White is one, because I see him as being very fearless. And, you know, whether or not you like his music or his style or anything like that, he's got a charisma and an attitude that if you kind of use that as a like, if I think about his stage persona or something, or his attitude, if I'm in a moment where I'm getting nervous on stage or something, and it pulls me out of that instantly, just do what that guy would do. Because he's also very primitive in his playing, kind of, and very, you know, punk rock or whatever. So it's like the most important thing is the attitude and the, you know, state of mind. If you get into a nervous state, you got to get yourself into the game again and think about it. It instantly pulls you out of, I've got to play this perfect, into I have to play this with attitude, and I've got to put my thing, whatever, into this, my mojo into this. And that's going to be the most important thing. And that could just mean connecting. It could mean turning the guitar off and just raising your hands up in the air and look at the crowd like this or whatever, like get out of that shitty headspace and get yourself back in the, you're on stage, the crowd's got your back. They all want to have a good time. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be, they want to see some charisma and they want to see a cool performance. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. There's somebody else in the super chat here. That's Black Corvo. And Black Corvo sent me $5. Thank you, sir. He says, please, could you give me your opinion about the tone I got last night? I'm using a Jazzmaster copy and a modded box Pathfinder 10. That sounds interesting. You sent me a video. I can't watch it right now because I'm here, but I'll tell you what, you were nice enough to go in the super chat. Why don't you send me an email, Pete Thorn at ymail, like the letter Y, mail.com, and send me the link, and I'll go check it out. Yeah, and you can do that. I'll get your email. I'll look at it later today and hit you back. Let's see. Fusion72 is also in the super chat. He says, what advice, tools, gear, etc. would you give to an adult wanting to learn to play the guitar? Influences would be anything from Van Halen to SRV. Well, the most important thing to an adult wanting to learn to play guitar, I mean, the tools and the gear and stuff is not really that important. It is important to have a guitar that's easy to play and set up right. So, you want to get something that's in the ballpark of the tone that you're going for. Like, so, get a good quality guitar, and then I would say have a technician set it up. That's the main thing. And I always told parents that too, like when their kid was getting a guitar, it's like, have the guitar tech in the store or whatever, where you buy a guitar for your kid, get them to set it up. Because a difficult to play guitar will discourage a good guitar player. I don't want to pick up a guitar that's hard to push down the strings and stuff and play. So if you're just a beginner, it's going to make it seem like exceptionally difficult, right? To learn if it's really difficult to even just push the strings down. So anyway, most important thing is just get a good quality instrument that's maybe similar to your heroes, as far as the pickups and the configuration of the guitar and stuff like that. These days as a beginner, if you were just starting out, I would recommend getting something like one of those Boss Katana amps or something. They're cheap, they're great, they sound good. You can get a huge range of tones, and you're going to be able to approximate a lot of different sounds with them. So something like that, and a good, you can do this for well under $1,000 easily, right? So nice guitar. But the main thing really is with the gear is it's less about the exact guitar you get and more about make sure it's easy to play. Make sure that maybe if you've got a friend that can go to the store with you that plays well and can help you select a guitar that plays well out of the gate, and then can, get you to a good guitar tech or something to have it set up really nicely so it's easy to play. And then you've got a good basis to start learning. And let's see, somebody else is in the super chat. You guys, too kind. Thank you. This is Nathan, and he says, how complicated is your Helix signal chain to get a good tone through full range, like FR? I had to leave my pedals and amps back home in moving to London for studies and having a love-hate affair with your Helix. It can be a difficult transition, I think, going from an amp to a modeling type of device, for sure. If you can't get it with, let's say, the Line 6 power cab and the Helix, if it's just not working with those, I don't know if you need to investigate any further. It might just not be your bag or your cup of tea. The power cab, I have one sitting right here. I think it works quite well. It does sound better to me tilted back. So the legs on the power cab, if you tilt it back, it seems to work really well, I find. It sounds a little more like a regular guitar cab. And the one thing I always recommend with the Helix is to try different impulse responses in it for the speaker simulation. If you're using the stock ones, get some of the Celestion ones or maybe some own hammers, load them in there and see what that does. So load up an amp without a cabinet block and then load the impulse response block in after the amp, and try some different ones and see if that doesn't change the way that you feel about it. I think that makes a big difference to me. The speaker simulation is a huge, you can't state it enough. It's the final overall massive filter on the whole tone that can really affect the sound of the device. See, Gray the Cat says, he's also in the super chat, by the way. What's the one gig that got away? Todd Youth just passed away, and he once told me it was GNR DJ Ashba got it. For me, it was 9 Inch Nails. That's the gig that got away. I was in rehearsing with them and thought I was going to do the With Teeth tour, and it was that close. So 2005. It was a long process of, it was about a month and a half or 2 months of auditioning, not getting it. Then Trent calling me back and saying that didn't work out with the other guy. Come down tomorrow and play. I'm like, okay. And then I'll go down and play. And then it was like, okay, you just totally kicked ass and we like you. We'll get back to you. Them not getting back to me finally calling them back and saying, what's going on? And them saying, oh, you're the number one candidate for the gig and this kind of thing. And then going down and playing with some more. And then eventually they went with that guy, Aaron. So I went out on the road to do a little tour for 2 weeks, and that kind of pissed them off. But I had some dates that I had scheduled with another artist. And I said, look, I got to go just finish these dates. Once I come back, I'm completely free. And they said, all right, if you come back and we haven't found anybody else, then you'll be our guitar player. That's the way that it went, kind of. They said we've actively stopped looking, but if somebody comes along that our management or whatever tells us we just have to listen to, we'll do it. But otherwise, you're going to be our guitar player. And 3 days later, I got a letter from Trent after I went on the road, and he said, I'm sorry, but we're going to go with this guy. And that's the way that happened. So I learned a lot from the experience, actually, and I would have done it differently in retrospect. I wasn't quite, I was a little green in the way that I dealt with it, and I should have dealt with it a little bit differently. I don't know that it would have made a difference, but anyway, it was the With Teeth tour with 9 Inch Nails. That's the one that got away. And I am a huge fan of Trent, and I became an even bigger fan during that month and a half, and it was a really big letdown. It was about 6 months of a hard kind of coming out of that, and I was quite depressed about it, actually. So, yeah. My God, there's a super chat folks here, so I'm answering these questions first. There's a lot of you in here. There's Michael. He says, how do you change your settings or rig when playing wide open outdoor venues? I'm finding the bass disappears and it sounds two-dimensional and harsh. Yeah, that can be. There's nothing you can do about it, really. I mean, when you're outside, the sound just dissipates and that's it. You can try and get more in the side fills and more in your monitor in front, but remember that what really matters is what the crowd is hearing out front at the end of the day, and the mic on the cab is still going to be picking up the same thing that it does in the indoor venue. So, but yeah, the sound change. It's amazing how quiet your amp sounds, right? When you get it outside, your 50 or 100 watt amp that you think is so loud inside that sound men are always trying to tell you to turn down, all of a sudden becomes not very loud as soon as you get it out in a great big outdoor venue. And yeah, it can sound harsh and directional as soon, that's just the nature of like a guitar cabinet. There's not really, you're just dealing with the physics of the whole thing. But yeah, just take solace in the fact that 57 or whatever that's shoved right up on the grill is sounding great out in the PA. I don't know what else to say. Steve says, he's in the super chat. He says, really appreciate the excellent content you provide and how you have a great heart for music. Thanks, Steve. I appreciate that. Steve Greenberg. Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm still just a big kid about the whole thing. I don't know how else to approach it any other way, really. I still have a great time with music, and I'm still excited about it. Okay, so I've completely lost my place in the regular chat here. There's 410 people online, guys, so I'm just going to start anywhere here and do the best that I can. And I guess the super chat works well for getting through to me, since it shows up in this different window. But anyway, okay, let's see. Shauna Marie says, would have been way better with you. I'm not sure what that means, but hi, Shauna Marie. How are you? Thank you very much. Whatever it is that would have been better with me. Let's see. Yeah, there's somebody here is saying, and I assume this is about the beginner adult starting guitar. Mike is suggesting they pick up a used Mexican Fender for $200 to $300. They're really great value. I would agree with that. A lot of those, the Fenders that were made in Mexico, that, the 50 Strat or the 60 Strat, those are nice guitars that came out. kind of, starting about 20 years ago or whatever they started making them there. There's probably just a glut of those in the used market and set up by good tech. Sorry, I keep burping. You probably can't go wrong with one of those if they're set up quite well. Let's see. Agung says, do you upload your Helix live patch? Sounds terrific. I'm going to do something with them because they have a new thing called Marketplace. So I'm going to make a bunch of presets for them, I think. I'm going to go to work and because people seem interested in getting Helix presets from me. So I will do that. Michael is in the super chat and he says, so stay tuned for that. In the, they've got this thing called Marketplace. I'll make a whole package of presets, I think. And then that seems to be the way to do it. How do you change your... Oh, sorry, Michael. That's the guy that I already answered his question about playing in live menu. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. And now, once again, I've lost my place. So I'm going to go somewhere towards the end here and just pick up there. So Randall says, how's it going, Pete and everyone? Going good. We're having a nice Sunday here. You and Phil X were neighbors in Canada. Not really. I think Phil's from Ontario. So I'm pretty far away. It'd be like being from, Seattle and Detroit, but, pretty far apart. But yeah, because I grew up in Edmonton. So I didn't meet Phil until I was living in LA. And then he came down a few years after I did. Okay. Let's see. What do I think of guitar rig cabinets? I actually haven't tried guitar rig for a long time. Back 15 years ago, it was really good. I really enjoyed using guitar rig, actually, and this was like the first and second kind of iterations of it, but it's been a minute. Let's see. Alan says he has an Adrenaline 3 pedal and accidentally plugged into the wrong adapter. Now it won't power up. Do I think a technician like from Long and McQuaid could repair it? Yeah, you could probably get somebody to repair it, or I might try somebody in... It sounds like Long and McQuaid, you're in Canada. So if you're in Toronto by any chance, I mean, you might seek out... isn't the Axis guy there? Axis Electronics? I can't remember that dude's name, but yeah, there should be somebody at Long and McQuaid could tell you how to do it, or you can always send it back to the manufacturer. That's that's an easy enough thing to do. Box it up and send it to the people that made it. But yeah, it probably just fried something on the board in there or something, plugging in 18 volts instead of 9 or something. I'm sure it's probably not that difficult of a fix. So we've got 410 people online. That's just rad. Totally awesome. There's somebody in the live chat here, so I'm going to go say hello to them. It's Andrew, and he says in the super chat, live chat, super chat, whatever you call it. Greetings, Pete from Ottawa. Do I have experience or recommendations with baritone electric guitars? That's Andrew. So with baritones, there's a lot of really cool. I don't have a ton of experience, but I love playing them. I think the Dan Electro one is cool, like the cheap one. I think it's great. There's also the Squier Fender Bass 6. That's a great thing to consider. I think Leo from Frog Leap Studios, he has one of those, and he gets some great sounds out of that. So they're kind of you can get something like a Michael Tuttle or something that's a little bit more probably fancy, but it's kind of a niche thing, maybe, or unless it becomes your main thing, could be, but there's a lot of great sort of inexpensive ways you can get into the baritone. So I would check out the Dan Electro and the Squier Bass 6 for some lower price kind of options, and see if you can find something cool. There is another person here in the live chat, and it's Emil in the super chat. He says, greeting from Sweden. What was my first real electric guitar? It was a Hondo. I can't remember the name, but it was a Strats, the one on the cover of Guitar Nerd, blue guitar on the cover of Guitar Nerd. So kind of a, very budget kind of crappy plywood Strat. That was my first guitar that I spent at least a year or two learning on. Let's see here. Jason says PT100 or a budget amp. You know what I'm going to say, but we'll have something new for you very soon. Of course, there's a new amplifier coming. It's not that big of a secret anymore, but it's going to be badass. So get ready. PT100 if you want to crush with volume on big stages. If you want something a little more, hold on a minute. It's coming. Let's see here. Mark says he has a Kemper Axe FX3 Apollo and went back to tube amps. Worth getting a 2 notes for the legit IRs, or just get a Fractal X load and use Fractal IRs. I mean, you know, you have to, IRs is a personal thing. I'm not that familiar with the current run of Fractal IRs. The Fractal X load is a really good load box. It does sound really, really good. I mean, you know, I don't have their IRs that I've used separately. Do they sell them separately as waves? I didn't even know that. Like, can you get them and use them in your DAW? That's news to me that you might be teaching me right now. I didn't even know, but they might have some nice ones. The Celestions. The thing with the Celestions is they just sound right to me, and I don't know about you guys, but for me, the thing with IRs is once you find something that sounds right, I don't really necessarily want to mess around with 100 other ones. Like, you know, I always put a mic in about the same place on a cabinet, and it's like, yep, that's the one that worked yesterday, and that is the place where it works again today. That's what I like to hear. And so it's the same thing with IRs with me. Once I find one that has the tone that I like, I'll every now and then go and revisit some other ones, or if some new ones come out or something, I'll listen. But it's like, I don't want to sit there and play around with that stuff all day. So it's a personal thing, and once you find ones that you like, there it is, right? And for me, the Celestions, there's a few that I just love that they did them right. They did it in a great studio. Whoever made them obviously knows what they were doing. They're all in phase. The room mics sound great. It's like, what's to not like? What more are you looking for? You know, so that's why I've kind of gravitated towards using those a lot. Now, recently I did get some of the new own hammers, like the Friedman cabinet, as well as his Guns N' Roses Marshall cabinet that he did, and they sound really cool. You know, he does some cool ones too. But there's a lot of options in there. That's just how he rolls. He gives you a lot of different options, and it can be a little overwhelming. I find, like, you can, you know, find yourself sitting there 3 hours later just kind of clicking through IRs, and, well, do I like that one better, or did I like the one I heard like 15 ago better? And I don't necessarily want to sit there and do that. So Michael says, what do you use for reamping? As I was mentioning, I really like the Fryette because it's all in an all-in-one box that I think does the job really well. So, you know, barring that, I think, you know, you could use something like a reactive load, and something like one of my PT100s would work great going into the return with once again, with the presence all the way off, the depth off, because that's going to be the closest thing to relatively flat, you know. So, yeah. Let's see here. Matt says he had a Memphis Strat copy as his first guitar. Probably very similar to what I had. Affordable, this is from Fusion 72. Affordable setup for Rat, Invasion of Your Privacy, and Van Halen Fair Warning tone. Anybody got an answer? Those are some great guitar sounds. I always remember the Lay It Down tone. You know, that's just like quintessential Marshall, great, you know, Marshall burning up kind of sound. Affordable, an amp that sounds like that. That's, I mean, do you care about volume? There's a lot of questions, you know. If you're trying to get that sound at low volume, it's a little bit different. You know, you might as well go for a modeling rig or something and try and duplicate it. But if volume's not an issue, I would say that you could probably get a used SLP 100 or 1987X or something like that. Maybe have a few mods done. You know, somebody like Friedman kind of dialing it in. That would probably be an affordable. The main thing that it's coming from is the amp. When we're talking about Fair Warning and we're talking about Warren's tone on that Invasion of Your Privacy, it's really a Marshall Greenback situation that and sort of accept no substitutes. Once you experience it, it's like, oh, there it is, you know. That's that magic thing. You could look for something like a used, you know, like a Friedman small box or something like that. And that would probably get you there, and also be a nice way to have a master volume and kind of control the volume a bit and stuff like that. Not sure what they go for used, but I can probably do a great approximation of that sound. Let's see here. preamp tube pedals better than the amps in the Helix? Well, it's better is so relative, right? That's from Mark. Grab a baritone and play the good, the bad, and the ugly theme. That's from Daryl. Let's see, we got a couple people in the super chat here. So I'm going to go say hi to them. It's EJ's Guitars. He says, love your work with Line 6. You helped me make a lot of informed decisions. Any new Line 6 demos coming? So for Guitar Center, they had me go out to Line 6. And for a couple videos they were putting out on the Helix Stomp, they had me play out there at Line 6 and do something. And then they asked me, can you come up with a song with this thing? And we just want to use the music in a video. Showing the pedal, like kind of panning over the pedal and that kind of thing, like beauty shots of the pedal. So I wrote a whole song, and they just put out the video a couple days ago, and you only hear the first like 30 seconds, but the song's like 2.5 minutes long. So I still have that entire song that I did with the Helix Stomp, which is essentially a Helix demo. It's just a whole bunch of different, so I might just put the music up somewhere or something like that, so you can hear what I did with it. I made like 5 different presets and, recorded this whole track with it. Maybe I can just put it up on with a stationary a photograph or something of the pedal, and just that's a YouTube video. I don't know, and then you could hear kind of what I did with it. So that would be probably the next Line 6 demo. I don't know, I'll ask them if they mind if I do that, because I kind of made the song for them. But Jimmy says, have you ever tried the Marshall JVM Satriani head? A little bit. I did kind of try one. They're cool. There's a lot of bells and whistles on those amps. Those 410, they're like a 4-channel kind of crazy situation. A lot of bells and whistles, so they kind of intimidate me a little bit. But I think his version has a noise gate built in or something. By the time those came out, I already was way into PT100 land. So, but I don't, I think they sound pretty good from what I remember. Those JVM, the 410 series. So there's a lot of options there. That's for sure. Just a lot of, a little confusing for me. It's a lot of knobs. I think the nice thing we did with the PT100 is it's 3 channels, and there's a lot of tones available and flexibility, but it's really simple to still dial in. You can kind of put all the knobs on 5 and then just turn them a little bit. It only takes like 10 minutes to dial that amp in and find your sound. I find. I mean, it's a simple amp to use. That 410 is like, it's a lot of switches and knobs, and kind of like, where's the gain again for the? And then I'm on OD2 or OD1, and you're like, I don't know. It's a lot of stuff for me. Do you ever play a matchless amp like a DC30? That's from Corey. Yes, I really like. Especially, I don't really have a bearing on like what happened to them over the years and whether they were any better or worse or that kind of thing. But those early DC30s, they were killer. Really, really great. Nick says, will your new amp be released this year or next year? I'm looking for a new amp now. How soon is soon? It's really soon. Barring, we're basically in the prototype stage right now where it's like, building. I don't want to say too much because I can't, John just gets mad at me, but he's promised me come hell or high water. It's like NAMM time. So that's only, was it now October, November? It's 3 months out. So, barring some sort of real difficulty with the thing where something just doesn't work. But it's, it's a little bit, having said what I just said about complexity, it's not a complex amp to use, but we've done a lot with the amp, and it's like, Kevin Sir has been a really, really big part of it, John's son, and he's been working tirelessly on it and getting it all to fit in a nice box, because I don't want it that big. I want it to be portable. So it's a bit of an engineering going on with the thing that is sort of above and beyond anything that I think they've done before, trying to get all this cool stuff into a nice size package that works really well. He's done a beautiful job on it. So, but it's coming. It's coming. I know that's not, but just consider that probably NAMM is the reality. And I'm super excited about it. Just think it's going to be killing. Okay. Let's see. Amar says he has a 410. He loves his and uses the balanced out XLR into impulse responses, and he loves it. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, Satriani is great. You know, I'm sure it's probably got to be a pretty good amp, right? If you know, it seems like a lot of people have chosen that amp. Let's see here. Mr. Marcello is in the super chat. He says, Pete, impressions about the new bridge. Did it solve the need to use the trem arm after a bend? Oh yeah, totally. My new bridge is outstanding. I mean, it's as stable as a Floyd Rose, I would say. As long as you got a guitar with a nut that's cut perfectly and it's slippery, you know, like a tusk nut or something like that, and you got locking tuners, it's rock solid. I love it. Do I like the Marshall 1974X handwired? Yes, I do like those little amps. Those are cool. I like the 18-watt Marshalls for sure. I like the little head too. It sounds awesome. The little 2061X thing. Very, very, very cool little amp. I think great little club amp. 2 knobs, couldn't be simpler. Super cool. Let's see here. As somebody, this is from Black Corvo. As someone who stuffed a tube amp inside a Honeytone mini amp, I'm gonna have to go get some reading glasses, I think, because it's so hard for me to read this, this chat. Oh god, I'm getting old. I'm excited to see how it turns out. Yeah, me too, man. It's an engineering feat, you know, but it's made, I'll tell you this, it's made right. I mean, it's going to be, it's a lot of stuff to put in an amp, but it's done the right way, and they won't make it so that it's difficult to service. That's for sure. You know, they know what they're doing over there. Do I like blending different amps together live, or have you tried it? I do like it. I always remember Peter Stroud when I was out on tour. He's Sheryl Crow's guitar player. Great guitar player. He used to run this rig where he was blending like up to 5 amps at a time, and he would turn them on and off. It always sounded really cool. Yeah, blended amp tones can be, you know, there's ways to get sounds then that are just impossible to get any other way. That's what I find. So, let's see here. Okay, can't wait for NAMM in January. Yeah, me too. I always have fun. Let's see. What are the music-related must-do things in Los Angeles? Going there next week. Yeah, that's a great question. That's from Mama. I would see if anything's going on in the Baked Potato, which is a, you know, old school and old school as it gets. And if somebody cool is playing at Baked Potato, you'd be interested in seeing, go down there and have yourself a Baked Potato and a beverage and enjoy. That's a cool thing to do. There's, you know, numerous live music venues and stuff. I don't get out that much anymore, but I guess next week, let me see here, 28, it's the 28, 4, 5. I mean, it depends when you're going to be here. I'm going to go see, do you guys know that guy Mark? That's the amazing guy that sings exactly like Freddie Mercury. He's incredible. I'm going to go see him with his Ultimate Queen tribute thing in Palos Verdes next week. I think it's in a week and a half though, so I don't know if you'll be here. But they're performing at a theater in Palos Verdes and doing the Queen thing, and so I'm excited to go see that. He's incredible. If you haven't seen the video of him doing Bohemian Rhapsody, that's kind of circling around on Facebook right now. I think it's well over a million views at this point. He's playing at the piano and he sings it, and it's one of the most amazing things I've seen in the last 10 years. It's just unbelievable. He's so good. I'm going to see Phil Collins tonight. That's exciting. So my friend Brad Cole is his musical director, and he's a keyboard player. Did a tour with him in 2016. So anyway, he's Phil's MD. So he was nice enough to hook me up a little bit. I'm going to head down there and see that show. So I'm excited about that. But what else to do in LA, music related? I already mentioned the Baked Potato. There's a lot of great clubs, you know, it depends where you're going to be. I mean, Harvell's in Santa Monica can be cool. Some cool shows going on sometimes. You should go to the Rainbow and visit just because it's classic and who knows how long it's going to be there. I have no idea. So go down there one night and you know, have a pizza or something and, you know, just soak up the vibe because that place has never changed since it opened, basically. There's some other, you know, some some of the cool music stores in LA. Go see LA Vintage in Burbank, Cliff Jones' place. Go see True Tone Music in Santa Monica is a great shop, especially for pedals and stuff. Always a good hang. Yeah, there's some ideas. Okay, trying to find a question here. You guys are having some good chats amongst yourselves, which I always encourage. What do I think of Mercurial Spark? I did a demo of that, right? Isn't that the one isn't that the Marshall, the Mercurial plugin? I think that's the one I did a demo of. That's like their Marshall stuff. Maybe it's not though. The one demo I did of they make incredible plugins. I mean, it sounded really amazing. I thought like really, really great Marshall style plugin that I tried. But they also make one that's the Spark might be the Triaxis one, but I'm not 100% sure. They modeled a Mesa Triaxis and made a plugin out of it. Anyway, I'm a fan. They do good work. From what I've tried, it's good amp modeling plugins for sure. Okay, moving down. Trying to find another question. Just one sec here. Will the new trim retrofit into Fender Strats? If it's a 2-post Strat, I'm not 100% sure, but it probably should. If it's like an older, American Standard or something that has a 2-post, I don't know if the spacing is exactly the same. It's like a Goto 510 spacing though. I can tell you that. That's from Old Guy. So it probably is my answer. If it's a matter of plugging a hole and re-drilling one, that's probably as much work as you would have to do. But other than that, there's no routing or any of that business that goes on. So it should be relatively easy, yeah. Okay. Will I actually play my new amp when it comes out or just stick with the PT100? I'm definitely going to play my new amp when it comes out. And I'll tell you this, it'll be probably the main thing that I start using in all the videos that I'm doing. That's for sure. Live, I have to wait and see if it's, I was just going to give it away. It's because of the wattage. I have to wait and see if the power, because we're going to do a couple different things, but, it's going to be perfect for a lot of things. There might be situations where the 100, because it's going to be a smaller amp, so it might be a situation where the 100 watt is the appropriate thing to use, just because of the power. So it just depends. But our whole goal was to give you basically the great tones of the 100 watt, but with all these new great features, so that are terrific for making it easier. And it's obviously much lighter, smaller, so easier package to deal with. Ben put in a thing here in the super chat, Ben Breard, and so I'm going to answer his question. He says, he sent me $5. Thank you, dude. I appreciate it. I do. He says, can you talk about how you dial in delay and or reverb? I struggle finding the balance between too dry and too washed out. I know what you mean. It can be a little bit difficult, especially with reverb, and it really depends on where you're playing. If you're playing at home, it's different than if you're in a big arena. There's already reverb. Many times a reverb is kind of useless in a big place. You might as well kind of forget about it unless you're going. I still use reverb. Excuse me, if I'm doing like an ambient, holding a big long note, and whatever. Even in an arena or whatever, it's still cool to put like reverb on a sound like that. But if you're just doing like straight up rhythm guitar and stuff, it's like almost pointless. Sometimes it's spring reverb, because you're trying to get a like rockabilly tone or whatever. It's just necessary. It's got that boingy, and it's adding its own thing, even if you're in a room that's got its own reverberation. But it can be a little bit tough. Definitely play with the tone of both. So the top end of both the delay and the reverb. If you're finding it's washing out your tone too much, before you lower the mix, and now you're like, well, now I can't hear it and I'm not getting the sound I want, leave the mix the same, but warm up the tone of the delay and the reverb. So dial back the high end on them. And you might find then you can leave the mix up, and you're getting the ambience and stuff, but it's not getting so much in the way of the core guitar sound, because now you've darkened it and made it this thing kind of sitting behind. So that would be the number one thing that I would say if you haven't messed with. Try that. Also with reverb, the other thing you can do is very pre-delay. if you feel like your reverb's washing your tone out too much, or it's, you know, all of a sudden your part's not distinct anymore that you're trying to play, try and lengthen the pre-delay out to 50 or 80 milliseconds or even 100 or something, and see if that gives you enough separation between your core guitar sound and the part. So those are things that you can mess with besides the mix. Okay. Let's see here. Catch Josh Smith at the Baked Potato. He's brilliant. Yeah, if Josh is there, he's overseas right now, I think. But L. Scott Music says Joe Bonamassa blends amps big time. Of course, several Dumbles. Yeah, he's a great example of somebody who's blending those tweeds with different amps these days. It can be really fun. You know, you get the best of both worlds when you blend different amps together. A great thing can be, and my buddy Brian Ray used to do this. You can use an amp like, you know, Marshall or something, but then like kick in like a little Champ or like a Blues Junior or something like that for a lead boost. So you turn on another amp, but it can be a little amp. All you need to get is like a little bit more volume over your, and a small little mid-rangey amp like a Blues Junior or a Champ or something, and kind of cranked up. That can be a really cool way to augment. You know, that's a cool blended amp sound for sure. Okay, what advice would I give to guitarists who have to play bass from time to time? What about short scale basses? I just did a video on this. This is from Tony. So check out the video on my channel, Tony, that came out called Bass for Guitarists, Bass 101 for Guitarists, with Adam Neely and, oh man, Jamie Lewis. I almost forgot Jamie's name. The two great bass players that I made friends with when I was at GitCon. And they gave me a great bass lesson. I thought it was really terrific. So check that out. And as far as short scale, I'm not really, I'm like, my new bass is super duper long scale. I got to show it to you guys, by the way. I got it right here. Check this thing out, man. It is lovely. So I've been using it to record, and it just, listen to the tone, man. It's just like that crazy. You probably hear it from, just really crazy sustain, and it just cuts through a track. It sounds great for rock, this thing. It's got that crazy USB port in the back to charge the, it's got a lithium battery in it. So that's pretty cool. I love this thing. It's really fun. But yeah, this sucker's long, as you can tell. It's long scale. And it's like, there's something about the long scale keeps that's part of the tone of this thing, that real piano, like, that's just like solid, and note doesn't really, you know, flutter around or deviate. I don't know. I just like that. Short scale basses can be cool, like Mustangs or whatever they're called. You know, those old school Fenders. It's a sound. But when I think bass, it's worth putting up with the, you know, it's yeah, physically it can be a little bit more difficult to play, but the tone is so cool on long scale. So let's see, in live chat we got Mike Johnson. He said, I use the same tuning as you do for Seasons. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and passion. Thank you, man. Yeah, it's great to learn Seasons, which is a Chris Cornell solo song, and learn the tuning and with the right string gauge and stuff like that. And then you get it, and you're like, oh my God, there it is. It sounds like it. You know, it's really cool. Solar Guitar says the bass is gorgeous. Thank you. And Amar says Warwick made it. Yes, yeah. So I picked it up while I was out in Germany, and I just love the thing. It's super cool. They make great instruments. So I'm starting to use it. I used it on the video I just put up for the fuzz pedal, the Tri-Pi fuzz from Rock Your Repaired Amp. The bass on that is that bass. And another one that I'm putting out soon, I just recorded yesterday, and it sounds great. You can get this great driven. It's also part of the tone that I'm doing. I'm dialing up in Logic some amp sims where I've got a clean, fat, with lots of low end DI sound, and then a driven with barely any low end sound going on another bass channel. I'm getting a great, like getting closer to that Doug Pinnick kind of, you know, really huge bass tone. I'm dialing it in. I'm going to make the, you know, it's all modeling, but I'm, you know, trying to dial it in so that I can recall it and have this killer rock bass tone. And that bass is a big part of it. Yeah, it's got a lithium battery. That's sorry, I can't. Skittles says it's a lithium battery. We're in the future. Yeah, you can put a 9-volt in it. It's just a battery clip, and you can clip in a 9-volt. But it's the lithium is rechargeable and it lasts like 300 hours or something. So because the bass has active electronics. It's a very modern thing. You know, I've got the gold P bass that I play sometimes sitting over here. It's that boom thuddier kind of, you know, awesome thing that's I also love. Really, my number one sort of bass tone when I think of is that classic P bass thing. But the Warwick, it sounds like a grand piano. Totally into it. Dan says can't wait for the Queen movie. Long live Freddie Mercury. Yeah, so the fellow that I did the Japanese tour with on keys, he was the keyboard player. His name's Brandon Etheridge. He is in the band with Mark, the guy that did all the vocals in the new Queen movie, and they've got this Queen tribute. And the guy is he's such an amazing singer and musician. He's really incredible. But so Brandon invited me to go see the gig, and I can't wait to see them because I just think that video he did is so outstanding. Anyway, okay, somebody else is in the chat here. Black Corvo says active basses and guitars with built-in lithium batteries, and they use wireless charging with the charger integrated into a floor stand. It's an interesting idea. Definitely a good idea. Yeah. Yeah, definitely cool. Ever play PRS or have experience setting up their trims? So if you watch, there's a recent video I did from GitCon. There's actually two. The one I did with Andy Martin, I think I'm playing the blue PRS. It was a very nice guitar, actually. And I also did one with, oh God, I'm forgetting his name now. It's terrible. I'm so bad with names. But anyway, I did a video where I played the PRS Silver Sky recently at GitCon. And it was I should find the fellow's name. I'm not remembering it right now. I feel terrible. But anyway, the Silver Sky is terrific, and I really actually quite like that guitar. I think it's really pretty good. A lot of radius on the neck on that guitar. I mean, it's like a 7, or you know, it's a big radius, whatever, 7 1/4 radius. Do you call that big radius or small radius? I don't know. But the pickups in that guitar sound really, really good. So I like that. I like that guitar. I've had a couple PRSs. I had a McCarty, and I also had a Custom 24. So that's going back a long time, 20 years ago. But somebody's asking if I use economy picking. Not that much, a little bit. I've got my few licks that I do with it, but I'm mainly an alternate picker. It's useful for some things, though. I just can't get with the, you know, the kind of the Frank Gambale, like do it all the time thing. It's just a completely different way of picking, and it would be like relearning the guitar to me. Do I still recommend the Sterling Audio ST170? Saw your video and it recently looked like a good low price ribbon. Dude, it's awesome. That's from Lando Music in the super chat. The Sterling ST170 is a great active ribbon mic that sounds awesome blended with a 57. It can sound good by itself too, and it's a great price. So buy without any kind of reservations, I would say. I was really knocked out by it. Any advice or tips for a Floyd Rose noob? Keep the wrench handy. Get a little wrench holder for the back of your headstock. What else? Make sure the knife edges are sharp. Check on the tuner. You know, hit it down, pull it up, and see if the tuning stays. Check the tuning. If it seems like it's fluctuating when you're doing that, it's because the knife edges aren't sharp. And Floyds aren't what they used to be in many cases. Like they're not, you know, I don't know, whatever's going on with steel or wherever they're made, they're not all made equal. So you might have to get, once you get them dialed in though, like a good tech that can sharpen the knife edges. That's the biggest problem I've noticed with them recently, is that sometimes you gotta, even out of the box, it's like, you know, they tend to go sharp or flat depending on if you're pulling, and that defeats the whole purpose of having the damn thing on the guitar. So make sure the knife edges are sharp, and you will be able to check that by put on strings, tune it up, make sure it's rock solid in tune, then push the bar down, pull the bar up. And if you notice the tuner's flat or sharp when you do that, you'll know that it's the knife edges. Let's see. Is there a technique you can recommend for improving timing for fast leads, or just break out the dreaded metronome? It really is just that. You gotta get the metronome going and lock it in. you just got to lock it in with the metronome, or drum machine is sometimes a lot more fun to play with. Whatever drum plugin, and use EG Drummer or something like that, or even Logic Drummer, Apple Drummer. If you've got GarageBand, use the one that, and just practice along with that. And yeah, there's no substitute for the work, I'm afraid. Yeah, please play music. I'm not set up to play today. I'm sorry. Yeah, I had my guitar last week, and I didn't set it up this week to be able to play through the. But so I know I was just kind of running out of time and stuff. I was even late getting on here, but next week I'll try and have something set up so I can play again, because that was fun last week. I was showing how to play that Phil X lick and stuff. Let's see. Can you please do something with the new Headrush update 2.0? So I am doing a video for them for their new, I believe it's called the Gigaboard, the smaller board. So that's coming pretty soon, within the next couple of weeks. I'll be getting a video for that out. So there will be a new Headrush thing coming soon. Yeah. Let's see here. The nut looks like metal. Is that the case? I'm not sure exactly what the nut's made out of. If it's brass or not on the bass. So I got the tag on the bass. Maybe like my other bass, you guys might have noticed, I'll leave the tag on for the next 10 years. I think that's how long it stayed on the other bass. Maybe longer, 15 years till it ripped off. So you can see it's got these screws here. You can adjust the height of it, which is really killer. But yeah. Show it one more time, just because, show and tell. I love this thing. It's heavy. It's the one thing. It's really heavy. Maple. Lots of maple. Okay, what time is it right now? It's 12:20. Damn, that flew by. Did an hour and 20 minutes. I thought I was going to look at the clock and it'd be like, 10 to 12 or something. But I'm going to do another 10 minutes and then I got a jet because I got some other stuff going on today. So 10 more minutes, I'll hang, and then I'm going to go. Anybody else? Questions? Let's see. Do you have a daily practice routine? No. What practice routine do you recommend for beginners? It's not really the main thing to do as a beginner, I think, is try and enjoy yourself. That would be my main practice routine. And through, you want to learn the basics and stuff like that, but always be trying to learn songs and music so that that's what keeps you excited, going, oh my God, I can play it. It sounds like the song. That's so cool. Like, that's all you got to do. Once you get it, it's like the coolest thing. So that's the main thing as a beginner, is learn lots of music. And beyond that, it's whatever your instructor or whatever kind of course that you're doing, whatever they tell you to do, I would say. But always try and learn songs. That's my main advice for beginners. Learn something that's within your ability, but just outside of your ability, push yourself. And then once you get it, so in the beginning, it's going to be, I don't know, simple riff. Like everybody always plays the, I'll grab this guitar. There's some Dan Electro guitar sitting here. If you're a beginner, it's or was the Metallica. Right? Those types of things. I mean, that's great. It sounds like, oh my God, there it is. I'm playing the music, or, whatever song you pick, just pick some simple riffs and things that you can play that excite you, once you can do that, oh my God, I've got it. So fun. So that's the main thing. Just get lots of music down and have fun with it, for the first year, at least. And then once you've got some skills like that and simple, then you can get into, okay, now I'm going to learn some more theoretical and get deeper into it. Peter P says he has a Strat with a DiMarzio PF Pro humbucker in the bridge. He loves the guitar, but it lacks bite. Do I think the Thorn bucker can solve this issue on my guitar? Bite, it's like, actually Thorn bucker we designed to be, it's definitely got bite, but we design it with the type of magnet it has. It's a little bit warmer ever so slightly than something that would have an analog of 5, which is, if you want something with bite, honestly, I mean, it could be the right thing for you, but you might want to try something as like a Duncan 59 or something and see if that's more your PAF Pros should technically, I don't know what the magnet is in that pickup. But something with an Alnico 5 magnet and kind of PAF-y should be pretty bitey, I would think, and have a good, like, kind of, not be too dark. How much does the bass cost? I'm not sure. They gave me a special, nice artist price on it and stuff. So I have no idea what Warwick Instruments cost. I got it in Germany, and it's like, could be completely different buying one from a store in the States. So I'm not sure. Mike Bradley was the guy representing PRS at GitCon. No, it wasn't Mike that I was playing with. It was another fellow that was a guitar instructor that I sat in with, and I did a video with him, and I'm just completely spacing on his name. I feel terrible. He's going to hate me now. Anyway. Have I tried the new Royer R10 ribbon mic? It's passive rather than active, but half the price of the 121. I have not tried it, and I would love to try it. I'm a big fan of Royer microphones, all the ones I've tried. And I use their other brand, Mojave, as their condenser mics. And I have a Mojave MA200, and I think it's terrific. Catpick Studio says he loves the UAD PT100 plugin, about to do a demo of it. Awesome. I've seen some great videos with it recently, and it always sounds really good in the videos I've seen. And I love that people are using it, liking it, and that it's easy. It seems to be relatively, like, I haven't seen anything sound bad. One guy did a video with the PT100 plugin where he went through every preset, and he just played, which was amazing. I mean, that's a lot of work, and so we were really blown away that he did that. But it sounded really good on all the different presets. It was like, well, that's all workable, usable stuff. So I love the plugin, and I use it all the time. When am I going to do a review of the Townsend Lab L22? I don't know. I would love to. It's an interesting, it's the modeling mic, right? I haven't talked to them. I'd love to do it if they're interested in having me do one. Any advice on mastering double stops everywhere on the neck? Well, you kind of have to just do it and get used to the shapes and the way that the intervals, there's no substitute for practice. Once again, it's all visualizing. I guess with double stops, I mean, probably playing arpeggios all over the neck could be, or like the cage system or anything you can do to visualize the neck and be visualizing more than just whatever note you're on it, like a single note thing. When you can see more notes and you can start to see the chord shapes, then it helps you visualize the things like the dyads, which are double stops, right? Does that make sense? So maybe get into caged or arpeggios more than sort of scale-like thinking, and that might help you to visualize double stops better. I had one teacher that told me he did nothing for like 2 months, nothing other than just practice arpeggios all over the neck. So he would work on chord, as a chord progression is going by, he would just play arpeggios and move around the neck, nailing all the chord tones. And then he said at the end of a couple months of just doing that and nothing else, he could visualize the neck like he hadn't been able to before. If you can do that and see how everything ties together, it might help you with double stops. Brad's in the super chat here. He says he uses a Line 6 X3 Live floor direct to amp, thinking on going to Line 6 Helix Stomp for weight savings. Yeah, do that. It's going to be better. I would have no qualms about recommending that. I think you'll dig it. Just probably better all the way around. Do I have any Marshall profiles I wouldn't mind sharing? I've never really shared any Kemper profiles that I have. I don't have anything that is, for Marshall. I have a couple, but I haven't really shared anything yet for whatever reason. Cantrell Projects is he says he bought my new album and was shocked with the production and mixing overall. Amazing. Thanks, man. And it says I did all of that. Yeah, I did. I mixed it and recorded everything. How did I learn to produce and mix like that? Just, honestly, it's the gajillions of video demos probably was helpful. When I started recording, it was still analog days. And I got my start on a Akai 1214, which is it was like a mixer built in. It was like a Portastudio, but it wasn't portable. It had a kind of a big, it looked like Betamax tape, like videotape. and you'd put that in, and then it had a built-in mixer, and it had 12 tracks, and that's what I learned on. I recorded about 50 songs on one of those in a band I was in, and another guy owned it, and he kind of taught me a lot about EQ and compression and stuff like that. So I started on that, and in the meantime, professional projects I was working on, we would, I made a couple records like 24-track analog and that kind of thing, and learn the old school, way of tracking and that kind of thing. And I was able to even do a couple mixes in big studios and stuff like that. Learn, they probably sound like shit, honestly, but it was like I at least got to work on some big boards and learn the ins and outs. And then not long after that came ADATs and DA88s, and it was like, oh great, we can have 8 tracks or 16 tracks if we lock them up together. And then it was like, oh, but wait a minute, it kind of doesn't sound very good. And so we had to learn what was going on with that and the early days of digital recording, and get into, okay, now your recording chain becomes really important, because you've got this digital thing that doesn't really sound that great in the early days of digital, analog to digital converters and stuff. And they were, analog machines were flattering when you were recording on them. They would actually kind of do a lovely thing and make things sound more pleasing for the most part if they were set up right. Whereas an ADAT would be a kind of almost lesser than, and you really had to be careful how you recorded, and that EQ, compression, mic pre's and stuff, that started the whole recording revolution. When those things came out, all of a sudden you saw these huge influx of new mic pre's coming on the market, and outboard stuff for home recordists that wanted to get better sounds out of their ADATs and stuff like that. So then I worked on that for like 10 years. And then I finally got a Mac and started learning Logic and stuff like that around probably 2002. Like most people, I guess, and got a PreSonus interface a few years later. And then finally, got into Apogee stuff and all that. And so it's just been a lot of years of, it's been probably, I guess, 30 years of recording, all the way from analog through all the different phases of digital and stuff, and then just working and learning. Now the video demo thing, because I record so many tracks every week and I kick them out quick and get them done and get them uploaded to YouTube and stuff, that's been a great training for mixing and engineering. It's just through doing, really. So that's how I did it, just practice, really. And there's so much great resources out there on the internet these days. Pensado's place, Warren Hewitt is another guy that, he has some nice videos on recording and tracking, and, there's just lots of great information available online. All that's ProMix online, or, there's these different courses now where you can watch people walk all the way through a mix, and they show you all the plugins they use and the EQ techniques and stuff and how they sum. And so it's all out there. And then beyond that, it's just practice, I think. Yeah. Let's see here. What else? What's the deal with your signature pedal? Is it coming out? I have been working on something. It should be out. I don't know when exactly. I don't know if it's going to be NAMM or not. Maybe. It should be really cool, I think. But there's not like a working one yet. But have you tried the new orange vertical 212 cabs with Celestion Neo Creambacks? I have not, but I like the Neo Creamback a lot, and I generally like orange cabinets. I think that they sound pretty good, and they're really solidly made and stuff. So I bet that's probably a pretty nice cabinet. I guess they're probably trying to make a portable 212 that's light. If there's one thing about the orange cabinets, they're generally not light because they're beefy. So maybe they're trying to do something a little bit more, reasonable on people's backs. Okay, got to run, guys. It's 12:32. I'm just going to answer a couple more here, and then Jet. Who are my guitar heroes? Eddie Van Halen, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Angus Young, Pete Townsend for sure. My first guitar teachers like Terry McDade and Brian Hughes. All those folks. My buddy Al Vermew. I learned so much from all those guys. Let's see. Have I ever tried the Friedman Runt 20? Yeah, good little amp. Definitely. Got his tones in it. Hey, Pete. Also, how do you EQ an amp when playing a 335 style guitar clean, or is that type of guitar mostly used for overdriven amps? No, my 335 is kind of a dark one. It's, well, the bridge pickup isn't, but the neck pickup is. So I would probably just tend to, try and brighten it up a little bit but it really depends on the particular guitar. And also I tend to use a little bit less gain playing the 335 because if I'm playing distorted, because they feed back. So I find the edge of where the guitar is not howling. And I find that that's generally using a little bit less preamp gain or pedal gain than I might with a solid body guitar. I don't like the, that kind of feedback that, can happen with a 335. So I'll try and be a little more conservative with the gain and just deal with it. L. Scott Music says Warren Huart is produced like a pro. Come join us, people. Yes, that's right. And that's my buddy Lauren there, and he works with Warren. Produce like a pro is cool. They've got some nice videos. Definitely, for sure. Let's see here. Will I come to Italy for some more concerts or masterclass? Hope so. I'd love to. That's from Stefano. I'd love to come to Italy, man, and eat and and enjoy the Amalfi Coast and all that, and just probably never come back. A signature pedal. Yes, there's something coming. Yeah, that's from Albert. Going all the way to the end here, and then I'm just going to finish up, you guys. Thoughts on Bucks and Betty? Nice amp. Feel tone difference when attenuating with a Fryette? No, you probably get a great version of that tone still using it with the Fryette, I would think. Matt says, thanks, Pete. Thank you, sir. Thanks for joining. Have I tried the Friedman Run 20 once again? Somebody's asking. Yeah, I have tried it. It's a great approximation of the, it's got his brown eye channel in it. It sounds really good. Superstream says, Henrique, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thoughts on the Yamaha THR-10? They're good. Nice. Look at that, and look at the Katanas as well, I would say, as a competitor. I like those little Yamaha amps, though. They're cool. I like that. They look cool, too. I kind of dig the form factor. Pete, love the vids. What's one piece of gear I can't live without? Probably my signature guitar and amp. If I had those, I could pretty much work for the rest of my life, I think. Those two things. Any demo coming for the D&M Drive? They haven't asked me to. I did that one little video with it where I sort of pitted it against a few other pedals. I thought it sounded really good. Any tips where to find information about a wet, dry, wet rig? Probably plenty of just dig through the gear page and search wet, dry, wet or W/D/W, and something will pop up. Any difference between the aux and the Fryette? Tonal difference? Yes, they're different because the aux is a more like a passive attenuator style design, and the Fryette is a load reamp. So yeah, I don't think that they're the same. There's obviously all the different features, a huge price difference. You got to look at all the other factors and weigh them out and decide whether the Fryette or the aux is right for you. I would use the aux honestly for recording and stuff like that. That would be my choice because of the fantastic software and miking and all that stuff you can do with it. It's awesome. If I was playing live, then I would use my primary thing I would probably use would be the Fryette because I like the reamp style. So both great pieces of gear, different price points, different features. Wilkinson Bridge, did you install the production model? Yes, it's on my guitar right now, and it's working great. Best recording for home, and more news about the bridge very soon because we have them now and stuff like that. Okay, I think that's it, kind of, you guys. I think everything's. What color boost? Can't tell you what you're saying. That's Solar Guitar Studio. What color boost? Boostan. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry, my friend. Look forward to the Helix patches, says Trolls. Yeah, man. Me too. I'll get some done relatively soon. Peace, everyone. You guys have a great rest of your Sunday. Thanks for joining me on my live stream. I'll try and get some guitar going next week again because I think people like that. So I'll plug in something and run it through that. This week I'm using my Audio Technica mic, by the way. Shout out to the Audio Technica folks. This is a great mic for, podcasting or for whatever you guys do. If you do any kind of a great mic for recording too. Last week I was using the Samson mic that's got the 1/4 inch in, so maybe I'll do that again next week so that I can plug in something to to play for you guys through the live stream. Okay, rock on, folks. Have a great rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you next week. Over and out.